Jim Jordan joins me. Nice to see you, Mr. Chairman. What's the story? The audio, the American people going to get it or not?
Yeah, I think they will, and I hope sometime soon. Never forget what happened here, though, why we had the Hur investigation. Joe Biden kept material he wasn't allowed to keep, and then he shared it with people he wasn't allowed to share it with, and he did it for a book advance. He had 8 million reasons to break the law, and we pointed this all out in the hearing. And then, of course, Robert Hur brings all that out in his report, but then says, oh, we're not going to prosecute because he's a sympathetic, well-meaning old man. Well, I mean, come on. We want the tapes. We think the American people should get that information, particularly now when everyone's now saying what we all saw a few years ago actually took place.
You know, the thing that's curious to me is that they released the tape. And they don't, and former President Biden didn't assert executive privilege over it, but not the audio. And even with regards to his executive privilege is not for sort of an outside investigation when you're being investigated for a possible crime. It has to do with something very specific inside the White House in dealing with your aides. They said there's no executive, under any possible thought, could this be covered by an executive privilege.
Right, and it's almost like, as you point out, Greta, they waived it when they released the transcript, for goodness sake. So I think they all knew this. I think Garland knew this. I think the White House knew it. The White House counsel's office knew this. They just didn't want it out there because they were going to run this guy for president. According to the latest book that's out there, we're going to put him in a wheelchair after if he won the election this past year. So, yeah, it was all designed for political reasons to get him through the election. They released the transcript, but oh, no, you can't have the audio tapes because we don't, too many uhs, too many pauses, too many things that the people would now have in an audio tape confirmed what they saw with their own eyes.
Well, something embarrassing is not a reason to have an executive privilege. It also isn't covered by executive privilege. But so what's the holdup, though, with the Trump administration? I mean, it seems pretty apparent to me that the privilege would never apply in the best of circumstances, especially since they released the transcript. But so what's the holdup with the Justice Department? You've sued for this. I mean, what are they waiting for?
Yeah, again, I think it's coming. I think there's a potential it comes pretty soon. What I do know is that this Justice Department, it's night and day working with Pam Bondi versus trying to work with Merrick Garland, working with Kash Patel versus trying to work with Chris Wray. So I appreciate the good work that Pam's doing and Kash is doing. But I expect this sometime soon. And, of course, when we get it, you'll be, I'll come back on your show and we'll talk about it.
Good. Well, how do you define soon? I mean, in the government, soon is a lot different than maybe soon in my mind.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to stick with soon. I do think it's not going to be months and months and months from now. I think it's going to be relatively soon. And as you say, government soon is not exactly the way we normal people would define it, but I do think it's coming.
Why does this matter? I mean, I want to hear it, and it's important for me. Just so I don't know why I'm hung up on it. Transparency, and it's really what should be done. And also I think he was commander-in-chief, and he was supposed to. We've got military in dangerous places around the world. Well, I think it's important. But I still think it's important, even though he's not president.
No, I totally agree, and it's important because of what the mainstream media did, what the legacy media did. Jake Tapper was saying, no, he's fine, everything's wonderful. Joe Biden's the brightest guy on the planet, and now he's got a book out saying just the opposite. So I think it's good for that reason too, to show how, just as if most Americans didn't know this already, but just how bad the mainstream press was on this. I mean, think about this. Joe Biden told.
What about the staff? If it turns out it's. If it turns out it's really bad, maybe it isn't bad at all. We haven't even heard it because everyone's hiding it. But suppose that it turns out it's really, is there any, I don't think there's any recourse, but, it's a terrible thing if people knew and if he didn't have the mental capability to be commander-in-chief.
Yeah, I think that's important as well. Who was actually making the decisions in domestic policy, who was making decisions, as you rightly point out, in foreign policy. I think that's all important. But I do think this media thing is, Jake Tapper told us a lie. Now he's making money on a book where he's telling us the truth. So, I mean, come on, you can't lie back then and now say, oh, but back then he was not capable and make money from that, for goodness sake. That's what's going on. And that is, the country knows that's just complete baloney. Yet that is how the mainstream legacy press operates. And to your point, foreign policy.
Yeah, I'll tell you about the media. Let me just interrupt you for a second. Annie Linsky, the Wall Street Journal, wrote a story about a month before the debate, and she was excoriated by people in the media and shunned here because she challenged the president, mental acuity, about a month before. So, I give a shout out to Annie Linsky because what she did was good work, and she got in trouble with the echo
because
chamber.
So many people on the left, it's all about politics, not about the truth. I always say the left has a template. The left will tell a lie. Joe Biden's just fine. Big media will report the lie. Big tech will amplify the lie. And then when you tell the truth, they call you names. And it happened time and time again when Joe Biden was president. And now those same people who did that, called us names for saying the truth, they're now telling the truth and making money from it. You can't, you cannot make this stuff up. So that is how ridiculous it is. And I think, again, just underscores how ridiculous the mainstream press has been for so darn long. Thank goodness we have people like you who tell the truth.
Chairman Jim Jordan, thank you. Nice to see you, sir.
You bet.